Thanks for joining us. And today we're going to talk about why your Kriya Yoga practice isn't working. So there are many people who have expressed to me that they have challenges with their Kriya Yoga practice and it just isn't working. There are also many of you as well where your Kriya practice is working. But the question is, how effectively is your Kriya Yoga practice working? So from my perspective, if you're doing Kriya Yoga effectively, you should be getting signs of Prachahara within about 5 minutes. Now, Prachahara means internalization, and it is experienced usually as the freeze response in the body. So the way that Kriya Yoga works is it works on the central nervous system. In particular, it activates our parasympathetic nervous system, makes it predominant, and leads into something called freeze response. And freeze response is a galvanic skin response. It's a physiological response to doing Kriya pranayama, which is a kind of intentional breathing that brings you into a low idle state. And what you experience, first of all, is feelings of this tingling sensations throughout your body. So it might be tingling in your hands, tingling in your legs, it could be on your face, up and down your spine, on your skin, and so on. And so that freeze response is Prachahara, the beginnings of Prachahara, of internalization. And as we know, when we look at Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, that is part of the trajectory of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. So you start with the yama niyama, right, the moral do's and don'ts. You get into asana, which is a seated position for meditation. Then you engage in pranayama, which is a form of intentional breathing or life force control. From pranayama, what happens next is it manifests Prachahara, internalization. And from a modern perspective, we understand that this is the freeze response, right? Galvanic skin response. So if you're doing Kriya Yoga and you do 12 Kriya, or approximately 5 minutes of practice, you should start to feel signs of the freeze response. If you're not getting signs of Prachahara within about 5 minutes, then the way that you're doing your Kriya Yoga is not as effective as it could be. Now, you may be spending, considerably more time doing your Kriya Yoga and starting to get some of those signs. But if it's not coming on very quickly, then something is lacking in the practice that you're doing. Now, I know that Lahiri Baba talked about, if you do 12 Kriya, you get into Prachahara, right? That's what Lahiri Baba or Lahiri Mahashai originally said. And the way that he taught Kriya Yoga, the original Kriya Yoga, is the same original Kriya Yoga that we teach at Modern Kriya. We teach the Kriya Yoga in the Panchanambhadacharya lineage of Kriya Yoga. That Panchanambhadacharya ji was Lahiri Baba's preeminent disciple. So he basically was his most gifted student. He learned all the practices, all 7 chapters or initiations, and then passed that on. And so this is part of the lineage in which I teach. So we understand that Kriya Yoga from a modern perspective, hence the term modern Kriya, that brings, understanding of the physiology of the body, of the central nervous system, of the brain, etc., etc. And so how Kriya Yoga acts on those things and starts to create effects in the body, bringing you into an internalized state, a low idle state. So one of the things that might be holding some folks back in their Kriya Yoga practice is that there are some Kriya Yoga schools that have added a whole bunch of stuff on top of Kriya Yoga that was never in the original, never taught by Lahiri Baba. And so some of these folks will engage in a series of things like the energization exercises is a common one taught in a few different schools, where you engage in a process of isometric contraction and some movement and breathing. And that's not part of Kriya Yoga, and it's not that it's a bad thing, but it doesn't lead you into an internalized state. It's fine to circulate your blood. If you've been sitting, not doing anything before you're going to do meditation, and you want to do that, that is totally fine. Similarly, some folks have incorporated yoga asanas before they do their Kriya practice, and that is also fine. But what Lahiri Baba actually advocated was doing Maha Mudra, right? So this is a stretching, on the ground with the Kriya pranayama breath, and a way of engaging and connecting into the body. You are stretching it, you're activating, the blood flow and so on, but you're also activating the parasympathetic nervous system, right, to help to bring about a process of internalization. So if you're doing a lot of techniques before you do Kriya Yoga, they may be throwing you off track from actually going internal. And that is the whole purpose of Kriya Yoga, is this intentional breathing to bring you very effectively and very quickly into a low idle state, into internalization, right? So there are other techniques that some schools teach, like the Hong Sa technique of concentration, which is basically just following your breath with a mantra, right? So it's a kind of a very simplistic approach to doing meditation, but calling that, as if it's a form of Kriya Yoga. Some people have called it baby Kriya. It has nothing to do with Kriya at all. So it really has not a lot of value in Kriya, and it really delays you from going directly into Kriya Pranayama, which is the most effective means to get into internalization. And some schools teach the Om technique of meditation, which is basically a way that they use this closing off the eyes, the nostrils, the ears, and then trying to concentrate internally, which is, with the aid of an arm prop, right? It just originally comes from a Radha Swami tradition, putting the hands on an armrest and trying to concentrate internally. It's not the way that you can get internal in meditation. If anything, it is a detriment to your trajectory of getting internal, because you're trying to focus to concentrate. And when you're in meditation, you're not actually trying to concentrate. What you're trying to do is to go internal and to have this awareness, this open, spacious awareness, right? You don't want to be concentrating on points. It creates tension in the body and will delay you getting into Prachahara. Another thing that can be affecting the way that your Kriya Yoga works to bring you internal is the way that you do the breathing, the Kriya Pranayama. So we want slow, intentional breathing that is very gentle, very relaxed. Some folks in different Kriya Yoga schools will make more of a focus on Ujjayi, a very strong Ujjayi. And so Ujjayi is that, aspirated breath, right? It's using a constriction of the epiglottis in the throat to slow down the breath. It's something that's used in Hatha Yoga. But some Kriya Yoga schools that have discarded the use of Khechari Mudra, which was originally taught by Lahiri Baba and is taught in the lineage that I'm part of, so engaging in a very strenuous Ujjayi practice while you're doing your Kriya Pranayama can actually create more tension, and it can be laborious. And I've spoken to folks who felt that they were gasping for breath because they're just trying to create this tension so much in their throat and so on that is really impeding their ability to feel natural in their breathing. And Kriya Pranayama is very natural. It's just a slow elongation of the breath, right? And so Kriya Pranayama should be very relaxed, very smooth, very slow. And when you practice it in that way, you really will find the Prachahara, coming on in like 12 Kriya or less. The other thing in some Kriya Yoga schools is the Shambhavi Mudra. Some people will say that you need to focus at the point between the eyebrows, and it's almost like you're looking cross-eyed to furrow the brow, and you start creating this tension. Focusing on a point, as I said, is something called foveal vision, right? We focus on points when we read, when we're trying to identify things with our eyes and focus. But in meditation, you actually want to open up your sense of inner space, and you do that by engaging your peripheral vision. So the Shambhavi Mudra that we teach is not about focusing on a point. It is about raising the eyes gently and engaging the peripheral vision. Gently raise the eyes and then relax, right? Because when you're relaxed in meditation and you're doing slow, intentional breathing with that open, spacious awareness, you're more likely to shift into an internalized state. You're more likely to become aware of the subtle aspects of your inner experience unfolding within you. If you're focusing at the point between the eyebrows and furrowing the brow, you're bringing your awareness to the outside of your body. You're creating tension in your eyes by focusing at these points, right? So you don't want that. That will impede your ability to get into Pratyahara. It's going to slow down your meditation trajectory. And I know, because I've done it like that. I did it for many years like that. And so when I realized the challenges that I was running into and where, what the plateaus in my meditation practice were, and I learned Kriya Yoga in the Panchanan Bhattacharya lineage, I was like, wow, this is night and day, right? Now I'm finally doing it correctly because I'm getting results in 5 minutes or less, right? So that's really what you want. So I'm not trying to disparage anyone's tradition, right? And, people have different levels of knowledge in the Kriya Yoga community. Some folks have, parts of Kriya that have been modified and passed on, and they have what they have, and I get that, right? And people are trying to work with whatever, whatever tradition they're in. But You know, I think there are some best practices within Kriya Yoga that are really important to know. And if you understand those best practices, you can apply those best practices to get results in your own Kriya Yoga practice. That is why I do these videos, right? That's why I'm trying to reach out to the Kriya Yoga community. It's not to say that, you know, the practices that I teach are the best, but let's talk about the principles underlying so that people can improve their own Kriya Yoga practices and get results, because ultimately we're looking to have a meditative experience, and things that impede our ability to do that, that get in the way, whatever cultural baggage they're attached to or whatever value they have, if they are not serving the purpose of bringing us into deeper meditation, then they are of little value. So if you have any questions about this video, feel free to send me an email at info@modernkriya.com. Also check our website at modernkriya.com and our YouTube channel. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.